I'll continue to hold my breath.
Yeah, it's for sure. I know, but there's one that's yeah. I know. Oh, did he?
Oh. Second, third, we can wait for the emergency clause. Okay. That's what we expect.
Okay. Okay.
I don't think.
We're only up to 5 at the moment. Now we maybe I'd better.
Okay.
Doesn't hurt.
No. Do we know if Sandy?
She was planning to be on Zoom.
I'll give her 1 minute.
You made a call.
If you think it would help. Guess if she jumps in, we'll admit by substitution. Are we all up and running? Would you all rise and join me in the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you all for being here with us this evening. Michelle, could you call the roll, please?
Harold.
Here.
Hollenbaugh.
Here.
Leontis.
Present.
Phipps.
Here.
Robinette.
Here.
Roland. Zanfordino.
Here.
Okay. So the minutes from our November 16th meeting have not yet been completed. So they will be sent to you prior to our December 21st council meeting. So we have no minutes to approve this evening. Michelle, do we have any correspondence this evening?
We do. A listing of budget transfers was received from Finance Director Brian Bouchon and distributed to you prior to the meeting for your approval.
Okay, do I have a motion for budget transfers?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Any other correspondence?
Yes, also distributed to you prior to the meeting is the financial budget summary report for the month of October 2020.
Okay. Do we have any lobby visitations this evening?
We do. Ted McGee. Or Todd, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Oh, yeah. Come up to the podium and please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Todd McGee, and I am located at 121 North Maple Street here in Bowling Green. I am the GM of the Best Western Hotel and dedicated citizen of BG. I'm the president of BG Winterfest, a volunteer on Firefly Nights Committee, and a 5-year board member and past chairman of the BG CVB. I'm here today because I am passionate about bringing visitors to our city. I want to start by clarifying the difference between a CVB and a DMO. A CVB focuses on increasing all travel to Bowling Green, including business and leisure. A CVB are the experts on all tourism in our city and help groups secure a venue, lodging, and activities for their events. A DMO focuses more on leisure travel. They act like the concierge to the city. They both have the same objective to increase the travel and tourism dollars that help fuel a city's economy. I would like to share with you that the decision to give the hotel tax money to the chamber did not originate from the CVB board. The other hotelier and I on our board voted against the chamber contract, and we do not support the hotel tax going to the chamber. The CVB was not given a choice in this decision. This was not a joint effort. We were given a contract from the city for the chamber to manage the CVB. That contract was not written in our favor and went against the original management agreement that we had approved with the 7-6 vote. Our board voted no on the chamber management contract written by the city. The vote was 6-6. This has created a division on our board. The plan you see in front of you now was given us as an ultimatum if we voted no. We still voted no in hopes that the city would realize this is not what is best for Bowling Green. I love this city, and I told our mayor a couple months ago that I would stand up for what I believe is best for BG. I do not agree with the decision to go around the CVB and give the hotel tax fund to the Chamber of Commerce. The CVB and our hotels are open to the Chamber assisting and working closely with our CVB board. We voted against the contract that was written by the city because it took away all our responsibility and power. The CVB is fully functioning and is in a strong financial position. This is vital to help support the hotels as the public starts to travel again. The hotels are hurting. We have been devastated by this pandemic. We are going to need help to recover. This is not the time to reinvent the wheel and start over. This is the time to lean on an organization with staff and a board dedicated to bring groups and visitors to our town. The CVB's mission is to attract visiting patrons, generating economic benefits for the community. The Chamber's mission statement is to support an environment for the development and success of business within the Bowling Green area. We, the CVB, have different missions than that of the Chamber. This is why the CVB decided to leave the Chamber and operate independently 15 years ago. Why would we go back? It is imperative that the CVB remains a strong organization with staff dedicated fully to the CVB mission. When you give an organization 2 missions, it makes it difficult to give 100% to each. You are constantly getting pulled back and forth. This plan is unnecessary. The CVB and the Chamber can work closely together. We can share staff and resources and save costs. We can best accomplish these goals by continuing to give tax dollars to the CVB. We, the CVB, are here, ready to receive the money and keep the ball rolling. We have recently spent tens of thousands of dollars to brand our city. The city has adopted and embraced this branding, and it is important that we continue to see the brand grow. I am asking you today to consider voting against this ordinance. Please ask yourself why the city of BG would give the hotel tax dollars to the chamber. Why not give them to an organization that is already set up to receive these funds? Also, please remember 3 years ago when the hotels and CVB asked for a 1% increase in hotel tax, this was fully intended to go towards the CVB as stated in our previous contract. Please consider continuing the current contract so we can continue to operate and be prepared when the pandemic is behind us. In conclusion, we have hotels, tourism venues, restaurants, and local businesses that thrive when large groups and visitors come to stay in our city. They are counting on us and need us more than ever. The CVB wants to work with the city and the chamber. We want to work as a team. That is what BG is all about, working together for the betterment of our town. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very much.
Patrick Nelson.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Certainly. My name is Patrick Nelson. I live at 1523 Wren Road here in Bowling Green. I've had the pleasure to serve on the CVB board for my entire 8.5 years here in Bowling Green. I've twice served as president and currently serve as past president. I consider myself sort of a mediator at this point, trying to bring the chamber, the CVB, and the city together. As Todd stated just a short while ago, you know, the need to sort of reinvent the wheel essentially has not been embraced by our board at large. I speak to you today just as one individual on that board to try to give you some context as to where things are, and also as a voice from our hoteliers, as I have spoken with them additionally, in addition to the two that Todd and our other chamber, or I'm sorry, CVB member who's with the Holiday Inn in the vote of no. To give you just a quick example of the CVB and our dedication, we're a 14-member board. We do have Mary with the chamber as a member of our board. She's been tremendous. This isn't about Mary. This isn't about the chamber. We believe wholeheartedly that this can be a great joint partnership, but are not looking to sort of dissolve one entity and drop it into the other one, if you will. Obviously, back in March when the pandemic hit, as you all know, hotels were devastated, as Todd indicated. We made some tremendous changes to our existing budget for 2021. We unfortunately lost some great staff members in that process, but we already leaned ourselves out. We adjusted our budget accordingly, and we actually ended October in a stronger financial position in 2020 than we were in 2019, despite somewhere in the tone of $75,000 less in income. So the CVB does exist and has very strong financial position to go forward. Back on October 15th, from this timeline, we were getting prepared for our October meeting. From midsummer to October 15th, a subcommittee was formed of CVB members and chamber members to talk about a negotiation to put the two groups working side by side, if you will. From that, there is a document I provided you. This document was a drafted destination marketing organization that the chamber drafted for the CVB. As it states under the bullet points and just underneath, the Bowling Green Chamber, BGCC, understands that the CVB wishes to retain their board of directors. The CVB will approve financial decisions for the CVB, including setting annual budgets. Marketing strategies will be evaluated by the CVB board and recommendations made to the BGCC for implementation. The CVB will maintain control of their assets. This was their document to us. This document was provided alongside the second attachment I provided you, which was a proposed budget that we had placed together. that budget for, I believe, 187,000, looking for my additional note, was what we as a board voted on. We voted on a partnership. We voted on the chamber managing the budget for 2021 for the CVB. That vote approved 7-6 with one abstaining. It was a close vote. The purpose for the close vote, in my opinion, was because many individuals felt like we don't need to do this. We can certainly maintain our individual staff and have a full-time individual working on behalf of the CVB. That's the message I got from the majority of the people that were on the no vote. At the same time, they all said to me, if this goes no, we will support the chamber agreement and working with the chamber. So we looked to go forward with that, taking these documents together. On November 13th, we received a letter from the city, from Attorney Mike Marsh, with two documents, an amendment to our agreement and a change to the Code of Regulations that essentially dissolved our board into the chamber board. Our subcommittee worked relentlessly or tirelessly to put together amendments, suggested amendments for that contract to go back to what we had thought it was going to be. On 11/19, we met as a board for our November meeting. Because this agreement was not what we thought it was going to be, we were voted as a board to retain an attorney on behalf of the CVB. Victor Tenbrink here, who served as in Bowling Green area, is that individual. Victor reached out, in my understanding, to Mr. Marsh to discuss the possibility of a simple agreement between the city and the chamber that kept the boards together. And it is my understanding that that was not considered. No adjustments to the amendments that were submitted were changed. And we were asked on 11/25 by the mayor to vote on the agreement as is. That vote was conducted on his request for a return of vote within 1 week. So on December the 2nd, a vote was returned, 6 yes, 6 no, 1 abstain, 1 did not vote. So that's where we're at today. So today we were told at the time that the vote was being cast, if the vote doesn't pass, Todd mentioned an ultimatum earlier, then something will go forward to just essentially bypass the CVB and send the money directly to the chamber. So I just wanted to give you my sense of the sequence of how things have occurred. I will be honest in saying that I originally voted yes because I thought it was the original agreement that we were voting on. I changed my vote to a no when the actual agreement came in front of us, because again, it wasn't the same document. We were basically being dissolved into the chamber. I respect everything everyone has done. Mary, the chamber. It's been a tough year, as we all know, but as Todd said, the CVB is very strong. The CVB doesn't need the chamber to operate, but the CVB wants to continue to look for that opportunity. We went forward with an agreement to work with them on a 1-year basis so that we could see where efficiencies could lie. We've leaned our budget. We've done what's been asked of us. And again, I said I'm trying to speak on behalf of the yes and the no in regards to where things are today. And I guess my simple question from what our attorney, Victor Tenbrink, asked was, could a simple 1-year agreement be put together between the CVB and the chamber? I believe that it could be. If I look back to Mr. Marsh, is that a possibility? Okay, so that's the first item. It seems very simple. It seems very doable. The second thing, I'd ask City Council to vote no on the ordinance as it is today. But moreover, to go back to what Mr. Marsh just mentioned, moreover, I would ask Mayor Osbacher to please reconsider the ordinance. Please stand with the CVB and the chamber, and let's put a 1-year agreement together so that we can go forward and keep our boards intact. And I lastly want to mention, I should have mentioned it earlier, but I did say that I had spoken with our hoteliers. The remaining hoteliers that are not on that board, representatives from those hotels had all informed me that they are not in support of this agreement. They are not aware of this agreement, according to what I've been told. And so they do not support the chamber ordinance that is before you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We're not going to be voting on this tonight. The vote on this would be on, at the December 21st meeting. Mr. Mayor, during your comments, could you give us your perspective on the unfolding of these events? Because I think some of the council members probably aren't really sure what's going on here, so. Okay.
Tony. Oh, sorry.
That brings us to,
We still have more.
oh, there's more?
Yeah. Tony
All right.
Vetter.
Mr. Vetter, welcome.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Tony Vetter, and my work address is 130 South Main Street, Four Corners. I want to thank Patrick and Todd for all their hard work. All the boards, not only the executive board, but the board in general. For an unpaid position, this has been a full-time job, it seems like. So thank you, both of you, for all your hard work this past year. I have a little different perspective because I'm in the building and I see the two organizations work hand in hand. So let's begin here. I serve on the executive board of the CVB. I was told this was going to be an easy job. I walked in this kind of position. I'm actually supposed to be on vacation today, but here I am giving my perspective in person during a COVID pandemic. But I believe the cause is worth it. I'm not here to speak on behalf of the CVB board or the executive board. These views are mine and mine alone. I've been working towards common ground for many months. There are opinions on both sides of this discussion, and both have merit. Having worked in the hospitality industry, the CVB industry, and working with government officials over my career has given me a unique perspective. I believe that the direction management of the CVB is going to change, but in doing so, having the same guidelines in promoting and bringing new visitors to Bowling Green, Ohio for the benefit of all. Let's just take a moment to go back to this concept of common ground. Our nation's founding fathers took 10 months for the first 9 states to approve the Constitution, not to mention the many months of debates before and after that. Heck, Virginia and New York were locked in bitter debates. Eventually, the Constitution was approved because they found common ground. They made amendments over time for the benefit of all, but in the beginning, they gave the concept a place to take root and grow. This is where we are now. We need to acknowledge the people who got us here, like Wendy Chambers, the event, tourism, and hospitality industry who helped us bring where we are today. The chamber, led by Mary Hinkleman, has been given an opportunity to lead this new effort. We need to give that chance, just as the people before them were given the same chance. You know, our founding fathers didn't have a crystal ball that foretold the future. They did have a common goal that grew. Could you imagine George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, or John Adams, or even Ben Franklin coming back to life and having them see what they created? Ben Franklin may have an idea about that, but the rest would be quite a bit surprised. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams had more disagreements than agreements, but toward the end of their lives, they wrote each other often and respected each other and became friends. They even died on the same day, July 4th, 1926, Independence Day, only a few hours apart. They definitely didn't agree on everything, but they did find common ground. Let's take what we have, work together, and make the future more than we have hoped for. Let's give the chamber the opportunity for success. Be supportive, be thankful, and appreciate all the work that people have done before them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melinda Kale. Oh, okay. You don't want to speak? Okay, good then. That was, Melinda Kale was the last one on the list.
All right, so that's
That's
it
that.
for lobby visitation. All right, well, that brings us to the introduction of new legislation.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I have a resolution authorizing the municipal administrator to enter into a renewal of the agreement with the Wood County Public Defender and a resolution transferring previously appropriated funds. I have 3 ordinances. An ordinance providing supplemental appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Bowling Green, Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2020 and ending December 31st, 2020. An ordinance to provide appropriations for the expenses and other expenditures of the city of Bowling Green, Ohio for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2021 and ending December 31st, 2021. And an ordinance authorizing the municipal administrator to enter into a contract with the Bowling Green Chamber of Commerce for the promotion and publicizing of the city of Bowling Green, Ohio, to bring the patronage and business of cultural, educational, religious, professional, and sports organizations into the city for the benefit of the citizens of the city and the business community, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Mr. Leontis.
I have an ordinance approving the addendum to memorandum of understanding and a cooperative power supply agreement with Bowling Green State University.
I have an ordinance authorizing the municipal administrator and the utilities director to enter into a contract or contracts with Pogemeyer Design Group for professionals design and construction administration. Bleh. Let's start over. Pogemeyer Design Group for professional design and construction administration services for the City Administrative Services Building, and to advertise for bids and enter into a contract or contracts for construction of the City Administrative Services Building.
Mr. President,
Mr. Harold.
From the Transportation and Safety Committee of Council, I have an ordinance authorizing the municipal administrator to sign an LPA agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation, that's ODOT, and to advertise for bids and enter into a contract or contracts for design, engineering, right-of-way acquisition, construction, and other services related to the resurfacing of State Route 64 in Bowling Green from Campbell Hill Road to the CSX Railroad and from North Church Street to the Bowling Green Corporation line.
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps.
from the Planning, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee, I have 4 ordinances. The first, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the city of Bowling Green for 2.761 acres of land located generally at the northwest corner of Thurston Avenue and East Wooster Street, and including the public parking lot on Manville, from S3 Plan Institutional and R2 Single Family Residential Zoning to the Bowling Green Gateway Zoning District. The second is an ordinance rezoning 0.14 acres located generally at 518 and 522 East Wooster Street from B5 Transitional Central Business District zoning to the Bowling Green Gateway District zoning. The third is an ordinance vacating the alley from Manville Avenue between Derby Avenue and 8th Street. And the fourth is an ordinance authorizing the city attorney to complete annexation of Winter Garden Woods expansion property recently acquired from Kent and Carling Krebs and declaring an emergency.
Okay. That brings us to our official reports for this evening. Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, everyone. You have a heavy legislative agenda this evening, and there are a number of pieces of legislation there that really are significant, and I did want to comment on several of them. First of all, obviously, you have the legislation that is basically comprising the 2021 budget. Once again, thanks to Lori Treader for the presentation to council last week. I thought it was excellent, and we will certainly appreciate your consideration and support of the proposed budget. Also on your agenda this evening is legislation related to the construction of the new City Administrative Services building. And I did want to provide just some brief clarifying, what I hope are clarifying comments in terms of that piece of legislation and the request. As you have heard from Lori in our joint presentation with our design team that took place back in October, and also what Brian O'Connell presented to the Board of Public Utilities last month, the legislation consistent with those comments that you had previously heard, the recommendation this evening that seeks to contract directly with Pogemeyer is for the design and construction administration work only. And I think it's relevant to point out that the estimated fee for the design portion of the contract is less than 10% of the estimated total contract value, meaning that more than 90% of the total contract will be competitively bid, and this includes all prime contractors, subcontractors, materials, and equipment. In making this recommendation, and this is basically the same recommendation that was approved by the Board of Public Utilities, we did consider the cost for putting the design portion of the project out for bids, and we considered how that would affect the project timeline and the overall product of the new building. As we did mention previously, last year, we did issue a request for qualifications for the first phase of the project, which resulted in us, after going through the RFQ process, selecting Pogemeyer and Collaborative for that assessment project. One part of this first phase of assessment was to provide an architectural rendering and the basic space utilizations for what the new building would look like and for the site. During the course of that process, we did interview 3 different firms, and obviously Pogemeyer and Collaborative was the successful team. We feel really strongly that the design group has identified the key components of this project, the needs of the community, the needs of the organization, both now and in the future, and a clear understanding of the historical significance of the current senior center. We feel that moving forward with this design team clearly is the best decision. As I mentioned, part of the analysis and recommendation came down to the timing. We believe that the timing for selling a bond in the spring allows us to take advantage of favorable market conditions. And we also believe that the year of planning and study that took place did represent that the current design team does clearly understand the important dynamics of this project. So in terms of the timeline, we feel as though, those things, if we were to put the design portion of the contract back out for bid, that it would have an impact on the timing of the project. It would impact our ability to get to market in terms of securing the bond, and it would also impact the timing of the ultimate construction of the building. So all in all, I hope that does provide a little bit of clarification for why we're making that recommendation, and clarifies that I think most importantly, a good portion of this project will be competitively bid and will hopefully be constructed by Northwest Ohio contractors. Finally, in regards to the legislation that you have before you in terms of contracting with the chamber for the administration of hotel motel dollars, I would first say that I've always felt like one of the most important things speaking in public meetings is that you speak truthfully and honestly. And I would say that some of the comments that were made this evening do not meet that standard. First of all, I would refer you to a statement that was issued from my office on August 19th that announced the change in direction for the CVB. I would, again, we at this time announced that we believe that it was critically important for us to best utilize tax dollars. Always it is. And it was felt that a realignment of the organizations to allow for greater operational efficiency was advantageous. When we looked at it at that time, a very high percentage, more than 60% of the funds were being spent for administrative purposes, meaning that there was not a significant amount of money that was being made available for direct marketing support of organizations or events here in Bowling Green. So in terms of this statement that was released in August, I would comment that the statement was released, the timing was released at the request of representatives of the CVB, and that the content of the statement was coordinated with representatives of the CVB. So having said that, where we stand today, we still remain committed to the same principles that were identified at the time we announced this change. We remain committed to being as cost effective as we can be in terms of marketing the city of Bowling Green as a preferable destination for events, conventions, and athletic events and that sort of thing. We remain committed to this being a collaborative process. As you would see on the proposed contract that is attached to your legislation this evening, that we are in fact mandating that there be a advisory committee that would be a CVB advisory committee that would be comprised of representatives of the industry. And they will work collaboratively with members of the chamber to provide advice and input on expenditures of direct marketing dollars that would be extended towards organizations or groups or local vendors that will stage their events in Bowling Green. So again, we remain committed, I think, to the same principles. We do remain committed to aggressively marketing the city as a destination, and we remain committed to doing this in the most cost-effective and efficient way that we can. That completes my report, unless you have any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for the mayor?
Mr. President?
Mr. Harold?
Thank you, Mike, for the clarification on those issues. I want to echo, as we all did the other night, the tremendous work that you and the staff, basically everybody, did on the budget. Second, I appreciate the extra time you took to explain the situation with not going out to bid for the design of the city building. I think everyone is very impressed with the work that Pogemeyer and the collaborative group did with the preliminary design. And I guess my question to you, and I think you probably answered it in your comments, is do you feel that the characteristics of this situation and the benefits are such that you're very comfortable bypassing the in many times prudent course of action, especially when you're dealing with, if you said 10% of the 11 million, that's about $1 million, did that in my head. Bypassing the $1 million that would be for the design and engineering with that going out to bid. Now, obviously, there's pluses and minuses, there's arguments for and against either going to bid or bypassing that. Do you feel comfortable in bypassing the going out to bid as part of our charge to be good stewards of $1 million worth of work? And I know you gave reasons like timing for the bond, and so there's obviously that's being a good steward to pick the best time for going out for the bonds. And then the timing of the actual construction. Of course, we've been waiting decades, so I'm not sure if that's as important. But basic question, you feel very comfortable that the advantages of bypassing going out to bid for about $1 million worth of work significantly outweigh the advantages of doing that process where, I mean, goodness, when we go out to get contracts for over $50,000, we generally want to go out for bids. So it's a long question. You'll probably have a short answer.
Well, maybe, maybe not. I do understand the question, and the short answer is yes, I do feel comfortable. And the reason I feel comfortable is a number of reasons. As you're aware, going through an RFQ process is different than going out for an RFP.
Correct.
You go out for an RFP, you're asking diverse companies to provide a specific price for a specific service. RFQs, on the other hand, you're asking people to tell us what their qualifications are to meet the charge of the specific project. Once you go through that process, you interview, or you narrow it down, you interview those that you think are most qualified, and then you score them based on the metrics that are established prior to beginning the process. Once you identify who the most highly scored vendor is, in this case, the design firm, then you begin negotiations with that person. And if for some reason you don't believe that the number that they're quoting is a fair price or a price that you want to pay, then you go to number 2 on your list. So in this instance, one of the reasons I'm comfortable is that if we were to put this out on the street again and ask for RFQs, it's, number one, it's very likely that we would receive responses from the same companies that were involved in the previous RFQ, which I think logic would tell us that if we went through that scoring process based on qualifications and specific knowledge of the project, we would very likely end up back where we're at in terms of selecting the most qualified vendor for this project. Even if we didn't, let's say that we went to number 2 and we were to begin to negotiate with them, it's my feeling that we would very likely spend more money in terms of what those design services would cost, because the number that's included in the budget that was generated by the current design team is based on their knowledge of the project, intimate knowledge at this point in time. They've developed the design concept to the point where they know really I think to a very high degree of certainty what it's going to take to complete the design of that building. If we were to go to a firm that had not previously been involved in that process, I believe their time commitment in order to get to that point would be greater, meaning that it will cost more. So all of those things considered, yes, I'm perfectly comfortable making a selection or making the recommendation that we are to City Council.
I would agree that the probability would be very high that at the end of the process, you would have the same conclusion to go with Poggemeier. Part of that is because they had a hand in the preliminary design, and part of it is because it's who you chose. So I don't know as if that's the sole issue. It's also the semblance of following procedure, and so it's not really the outcome that I think is tremendously in question. It's the process, and so I think what I'm hearing from you is that given that the process that would unfold, you'd probably have a subset actually of people interested in it if we did go out, because those contractors that were interested in the preliminary design would see that the advantage that Poggemeier has at this point. So you might get actually less, but again, it's the process. So you're saying that as far as the process, you get it, you understand it. I mean, you've been dealing with this for many years in your former life. So you're comfortable with it. And
I am comfortable.
Fine.
And I would also say that before we made this recommendation, we did consult with the city attorney to make sure that this process was consistent with Ohio Revised Code.
Oh yeah, I wasn't questioning the legality at all. It's the semblance of it. It's not whether it's legal or not, because you wouldn't be doing it if it were illegal.
Correct.
So it's just a question of the impression that it gives. And what I wanted, actually more than anything, was to give a forum for that to get out, that no, we went through this. We looked at the pros and cons. We looked at the advantages and disadvantages and saw that it was clear choice for the stewardship of the public funds to go this route.
I am
And
comfortable with that
that's-
conclusion.
And that's what I'm getting from you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the mayor? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Municipal Administrator. Are there any questions for Ms. Treader? Okay. Who do we have? Looks like Mr. Marsh, City Attorney. Any questions for Mr. Marsh? All righty. That brings us to council committee reports.
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. Robinette.
As you are aware, the Finance and Ways and Means Committee met on the 3rd of December for the 2021 budget hearing. I'd like to restate my thanks and appreciation to the mayor, Lori, Joe, Brian Bouchon, Brian O'Connell, and all the department heads who worked to build this budget in these very unusual times. The budget that we're going to be asked to approve is a focused and reasonable response to the economic challenges presented during the pandemic. It provides balance between limitations and priorities and between current needs and long-term strategic goals. And it is thorough in both its analysis and application of reduced resources. The budget maintains the level of services citizens expect and enjoy, particularly fire, police, utilities, and infrastructure. And this year's budget executive summary is a particularly clear and well-written document and projects a tempered optimism for projected improving economic circumstances in 2021, while recognizing that income tax revenue will be down in 2020. Importantly, the executive summary also highlights the administration's response of implementing cost savings measures in all departments. As the chair of the Finance and Ways and Means Committee, I'm very pleased to see a number of important items addressed in this budget. The payroll stabilization fund is restarted for the next 11-year cycle. This will indeed be a gift to our successors in city government if we can maintain the annual contributions to this payroll stabilization fund. The priorities established by this council in February of this year are addressed. The city will be taking the important step to fund and purchase the implementation of police body-worn cameras. Road and sidewalk repairs are addressed, and the need for improved radio communication via Marks radios for the fire division is addressed. The budget does include some homework assignments for this city council. For example, we will, once the budget's approved, we'll need to define the who, what, how we implement a public art program and manage that with limited funds available. There's an implied task for the planning committee to work with the city administration on a timeline for receiving the results of the feasibility study and recommendation for a multi-use path to Bowling Green Community Center and Cogan's Crossing in late 2021, for example. But all in all, this was a great product, and I'm honored to be able to have introduced it for our vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any other council committee reports this evening?
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps?
I would like to put two meetings of the Planning, Zoning, and Economic Development Committee on our calendar. On January 19th at 6:45, we will be meeting to discuss 3 of the ordinances introduced this evening. And then on February 1st at 6:30, if possible, we'd like to meet on the historic preservation ordinance that's in front of us. The Planning Commission is going to hold a hearing on that ordinance on January 6th. And so it should be appropriate for us to discuss that on the 1st of February. That's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Harold?
Yes, I don't know if you're going to address this or not, Dave, so fine. But the December 31st is coming around. You want to mention about the face mask ordinance?
Yeah, I was going to mention it. As most of you are aware, we had extended the face mask ordinance to December 31st. council at our December 21st meeting will have a vote on whether or not to extend that beyond December 31st. So anyone out there who would like to provide input to their council members with regard to the mandatory mask ordinance in town, please do so prior to the December 21st meeting. That's all I've got for that. Okay, so that brings us to the reading of legislation.
Legislation for first reading. Resolution 3782, authorizing the municipal administrator to enter into a renewal of the agreement with the Wood County Public Defender. Resolution 3783, resolution transferring previously appropriated funds.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to suspend the rules and give Resolution 3783 its second and third reading. Second.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. You call the roll, please.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Leontis,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
She says yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
Okay, so the rules are suspended for Resolution 3783.
Resolution 3783 for second and third reading, resolution transferring previously appropriated funds.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to adopt Resolution 3783.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Michelle, can we have the roll?
Leontis,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh.
Yes. All right, Resolution 3783 is adopted.
Ordinance 8880, providing supplemental appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2020 and ending December 31st, 2020.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to suspend the rules and give Ordinance 8880 its second and third reading.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Could you call the roll, please?
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Leontis.
Yes.
Okay, the rules are suspended for Ordinance 8880.
8880 for second and third reading, ordinance providing supplemental appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio during the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2020 and ending December 31st, 2020.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to adopt Ordinance 8880.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Leontis,
Yes.
Phipps.
Yes.
All right, so Ordinance 8880 is adopted.
Ordinance 8881 to provide appropriations for the expenses and other expenditures of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2021 and ending December 31st, 2021. Ordinance 8882, authorizing the municipal administrator to enter into a contract with the Bowling Green Chamber of Commerce for the promotion and publicizing of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio to bring the patronage and business of cultural, educational, religious, professional, and sports organizations into the city for the benefit of the citizens of the city and the business community and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Mr. Robinette.
I move to adopt the emergency clause for Ordinance 8882.
Second.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. Would you call the roll, please?
Roland,
Yes.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Leontis,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette.
Yes.
Okay, the emergency clause has been adopted for ordinance 8882.
Mr. President?
Mr. Harold.
In light of the comments at lobby visitation, is there any desire for you to assign this to any kind of a committee, or just keep it as it is for the possibility of 2 readings next time?
My suggestion.
President, excuse me.
Yeah,
It was my understanding that this would not be voted upon until the December 21st meeting, that
not.
it would only be introduced tonight, and we would be voting on it at a later time with second and third reading
yes,
at that time.
that is exactly what is happening.
Yes, perhaps the communication system, sound system wasn't helpful. My query was predicated on it not being voted on tonight. As the administration recommends, it would be given its second and third readings next time. But in lieu of the discussion tonight by a number of people, I'm just bringing up for the president's consideration the possibility of having it assigned to a committee that would have to meet pretty quickly if we continue to plan on voting on it next time. So,
Mr. President,
Yes,
I would like to add that I am the person designated by City Council to serve on the Convention and Visitors Bureau. I do attend the meetings. I did not involve myself in the process of the subcommittee or executive committee meetings after the mayor had initially made his announcement, and it was published in newspapers that his intention was to contract with the Chamber of Commerce at the end of this year, and not contract again with the Convention and Visitors Bureau for the purpose of reducing overhead expenses for staff, so to speak. So in attending the meetings, I sense that there was a lot of anxiety and concern that the members of the CVB currently had done something wrong. And that was the reason for the mayor's desire to contract with another nonprofit organization. At this time, I want to make it perfectly clear that I am clear that Mayor Osbacher is in no way blaming any board members for any wrongdoings, any neglect, or doing anything wrong at all. I believe that the concern that exists now is confusing in that it's difficult for the members of the CVB to realize that a city does from time to time change contracts with businesses and nonprofits, and that this was not anything done maliciously or out of order. It was something that, in the opinion of the mayor, was going to save money. The mayor feels that the better place to be promoting our city is in the Chamber of Commerce. And that is the deep concern that a lot of board members think, well, we've been doing it this way. Why can't we continue to do it this way? And it's sad, but true that change is very, very difficult. And so I truly believe that what the CVB has been doing, having executive committees that meet from time to time and marketing committees that meet from time to time, will continue. It will continue. The only change is going to be the person who answers the telephone every day is also going to be the person that answers for the Chamber of Commerce. Thus, reducing overhead in the form of wages. The person who signs the check, it's going to be different, but it's going to be the same person that's already signing checks, thus reducing overhead costs. There is built in this legislation, very, very importantly, a provision that the mayor will appoint no less than 5 business people to be on an advisory committee to the Chamber of Commerce and advise them where the marketing committee or money will go. That's the same as the executive committee and marketing committees have been doing within the CVB. The difference is, in all of this, is that the contract is made out with the Chamber of Commerce, thus expiring the contract of the CVB. CVB will not have a reason to exist unless the city attorney decides that he might recommend they stay in existence, because the contract with the chamber is only for a mere 1 year, making sure that things work out well. If it doesn't work out well, reconsiderations will certainly be made. So there's no need to study this in my mind. We have to have someone who's going to handle the hotel and motel taxes that we have assessed. It's 4%. And it's the mayor's decision, after his thinking upon it, that the chamber is already working with businesses and already acquainted with all businesses in town, in that they are the best place to be sending the hotel and motel taxes to market our town. And that's my opinion on this.
All right, thank you very much, Sandy. Rather than appoint this to a committee, I would simply urge all of those who have a vested interest in the outcome of this to contact their members of council between now and the 21st. And for council members that have any questions, to get those questions addressed, and to come to the council meeting on the 21st prepared to vote and if necessary, discuss the matter further. That's my advice on this.
And, I do believe that the mayor is willing to talk to any of us if we have questions. And I, of course, will talk with you. This has not been easy. It has been painful. It has been sad. It's been controversial. I don't want to think it's cut and dry. That change is not easy, and change can be painful. So that's all I really have to say.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Mr. Harold.
Yeah, I just want to thank Sandy for adding her comments. It's very helpful. I appreciate it, Sandy.
Thank you.
And as far as bringing this up, I do want to at least mention that by virtue of the fact that we have legislation here that we as the council, as the legislative branch, are to vote on, it is perfectly legitimate to have this discussion. That's part of what our job is. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I believe that brings us to 8883.
Ordinance 8883, approving the addendum to the Memorandum of Understanding and Cooperative Power Supply Agreement with Bowling Green State University. Ordinance 8884, authorizing the municipal administrator and the utilities director to enter into a contract or contracts with Pogemeyer Design Group for the professional design and construction administration services of the City Administrative Services Building, and to advertise for bids and to enter into a contract or contracts for construction of the City Administrative Services Building.
And I just want to interrupt real quick and say that you did a much better job reading that than I did. So kudos.
Thank you. Ordinance 8885, authorizing the municipal administrator to sign an LPA agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, and to advertise for bids and enter into a contract or contracts for design, engineering, right-of-way acquisition, construction, and other services related to the resurfacing of State Route 64 in Bowling Green from Campbell Hill Road to the CSX Railroad and from North Church Street to the Bowling Green Corporation line. Ordinance 8886, amending the zoning district map of the city of Bowling Green for 2.761 acres of land located generally at the northwest corner of Thurston Avenue and East Wooster Street, and including the public parking lot on Manville Avenue from S3 Plan Institutional and R2 Single Family Residential zoning to the Bowling Green Gateway zoning district. Ordinance 8887, rezoning 0.14 acres located generally at 518 and 522 East Wooster Street from B5 Transitional Central Business District zoning to the Bowling Green Gateway District zoning. Ordinance 8888, vacating alley from Manville Avenue between Derby Avenue and 8th Street. And Ordinance 8889, authorizing the city attorney to complete annexation of Winter Garden Woods expansion property recently acquired from Kent and Carleen Krebs and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps.
I move to suspend the rules and give ordinance 8889 its second and third reading.
Second,
Don't we have to do the emergency clause first?
No.
No? Okay. All right, go ahead.
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Leontis,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland.
yes,
Okay, the rules are suspended for ordinance 8889.
Ordinance 8889 for second and third reading. Ordinance authorizing the city attorney to complete annexation of Winter Garden Woods expansion property recently acquired from Kent and Carleen Krebs and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps.
I move to adopt the emergency clause for ordinance 8889.
Second.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on that? I have a little discussion. This is the time we adopt the emergency clause. Please carry on.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh,
Yes.
Leontis,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
yes,
Zanfordino.
Yes.
Okay, the emergency clause is adopted for ordinance 8889.
Mr. President,
Ms. Phipps.
I move to adopt ordinance 8889.
Second.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, Michelle?
Hollenbaugh,
Yes?
Leontis,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
yes,
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Harold.
Yes.
All right. Ordinance 8889 is adopted.
Legislation for second reading. Resolution 3780, authorizing the mayor of the city of Bowling Green, Ohio to file an application and execute a contract upon grant application approval under the Community Development Block Grant Entitlement Program as authorized by the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974 as amended. Legislation for third reading. Ordinance 8878, creating and adopting Chapter 158 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Bowling Green, Ohio, regarding historic preservation and amending and adopting certain sections of Chapter 30, 32, 35, 38, 150, and 152 of the Codified Ordinances to reflect changes regarding historic preservation.
Mr. President,
Mr. Zanfordino.
I move that we table ordinance 8878.
Until what time?
Mr. President, we spoke of tabling this until January 19th,
Right.
but
It
learning
looks
tonight
like-
about,
It looks like the hearing has been scheduled for February 1st. Is that correct?
Yes.
yes, I think that would be the best date to,
Yes, otherwise
to
we just
revisit
have
this.
to extend it, so. Right. February 1st is a good date.
perfect. Thank you.
I second John's motion to table ordinance 8878 until February 1st, 2021.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. Is this a roll call vote to table?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you call the roll, please?
Leontis,
Yes.
Phipps,
Yes.
Robinette,
Yes.
Roland,
Yes,
Zanfordino,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Hollenbaugh.
Yes. So ordinance 8878 will be tabled until February 1st, 2021. Okay, is there any other business to come before council tonight?
Mr. President,
Mr. Harold?
I want to publicly and enthusiastically commend Michelle for the excellent job she
Thank you.
did.
Thank you.
No doubt. She should do my job. Anything
Enough is
else?
enough.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
second,
Second.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.